Hey everybody, it is Sister Sower. Welcome back to Sow to Reap 65. Motto of today: if at first you don't succeed, try again. All right, so I tried to do the live, it wasn't working. So I'm like, okay, no big deal. I'll go back to what I know and what works well for me. So here was the intent of the live. I was talking about a question that Mr. Sower had asked me yesterday, and the question was, what does gardening do for me? So the first thing I said right away was it helps to relax me. It helps me think about what's going on, helps me to problem solve, go through, whatever the issues are. Um, it just helps me kind of chill out, take a step back, take a breath, and then look at it um, with a clear head. So if something was irritating me at work, let's think about it, let's think it through. Um, I can talk and talk and talk and talk about what made me mad or what irritated me or what disappointed me or whatever. But then let's just get back to the root of the issue. So when I get out in the garden, it helps me to do that. It helps me to kind of chill out, relax, take a breath, and just think whatever through. It also helps me to problem solve what's going on with those situations and even with things that are happening in the garden. If something needs to be adjusted because of the weather, because of where we planted something, or whether or not it's getting enough light or not enough light, if it's getting too much water or not enough, whatever the issue is, helps me to kind of look at what's going on, think about it, problem solve on how we can make this better. What adjustments do we need to do so that one, we don't kill the plant, that it doesn't die, that it gets to its full maturity, and we can get the harvest that we were hoping to get and see. And then as I was talking about that, or after talking about that, and I was thinking about the conversation a little more, it really sprung from a conversation I had previously to him asking me the question. And I was talking to someone who is new at gardening, was putting their hand to the plow and trying to make this work, and had done it a couple times and has had some challenges and has not been successful yet. And I was trying to encourage the person to, maybe try this, maybe try that, but don't give up. Whatever you do, don't give up. And, the person was kind of like, oh, well, maybe I'll, see about it next year. And I was like, you still have time. You still have time. You can make it happen. You still have time. But, the person was like, well, I'll have to wait and see. And, I get it. If you're new and you're expecting to see this because, I post my pictures or I post my videos and um, it to me or to them it may make it seem like I'm just putting the seed in the dirt, here it is, and I'm making it happen. um, that's not the case, but just trying to encourage the person, don't give up, keep going. You can make it happen, but just don't give up. And as I was rethinking that conversation and then the conversation that Mr. Sower and I had, and he asking me that question, even this morning, I was still thinking about it as I was out and about doing some other things. And two words came to mind for me. And this is strictly for me. This isn't trying to throw shade at anybody else, but it is strictly for me and what helps me to keep moving forward. The first word was complacent, and the second word was contentment. And when you look at the definition of those two words and you read it, they kind of sound the same. But if you really look at what each of them are talking about or each of them are dealing with, they couldn't be any closer to each other. So here is the definition of complacent. It means showing smug or uncritical satisfaction with oneself or one's achievement. And here is the definition for for contentment. It is a state of happiness or satisfaction. So you can see why they seem like they're close, because satisfaction is in both of those definitions. But if you listen to them again, Complacence says showing smug or uncritical satisfaction with oneself or one's achievement. Let me give you an example of that. Complacent means this is the way I've always done it, and I've always had this success, so there's nothing more for me to do. I don't need to change what I do. I don't need to adjust what I do. I've always done it this way, and I've always got this result. So content or complacement means, or when you look at it, it means that really you're refusing to improve. You're satisfied with, I got this amount last year, I got the same amount this year, I'm okay with that. You're not willing to do whatever it takes to improve it. So what you initially do is good enough to get you started and get you those results. But it may not necessarily be enough for you to get more results. That's complacency. Contentment is the opposite of that. Because while contentment does show satisfaction and deals with satisfaction, the underlining or the background of that satisfaction is this. I've done everything I can do to make this plant grow. I have put the seed in the ground. I have watered it. I have fed it. I have let the rain and the sun do what it needs to do. I have made adjustments to it. And if this is all that I'm going to get from this plant after doing all that, I'm okay with that. That is contentment. Because contentment shows that you have put forth an effort. Even though you're doing the same thing year after year or season after season, you're planting the same seed. You're even putting that same seed in the same spot of the garden. And you're giving it the water, you're fertilizing. If you fertilize, you're doing whatever you need to do to make that happen. Yeah, you're making that happen. But here's the difference in contentment. Because there's something that changes from year to year, even though you're planting in the same season. You may not get the same type of temperature this year that you got last year. You may not get the same amount of rain this year that you got last year. You may have different kind of pests that you're dealing with this year that you never saw last year. There are variables that change from season to season. And while you are putting the same seed, the same type of seed in the same spot in your garden, year after year, season after season, and yeah, you're watering it and you're laying back in the cut to see what happens. If that is all that you're doing, that's complacency. But if you are taking into account that this time this year is way hotter than it was this time last year, if you're looking at we're getting more rain this year this time than we did last year, if you're looking at we're getting cooler weather this time this year than we did last year, whatever the change may be, if you're not making adjustments to the changes that you see, you're complacent. But if you are making the adjustments in the changes that are happening and you're getting the same amount or better, that is contentment, because you're saying, I've done what I needed to do. I've looked at the situation. I've thought about the changes I need to make. I have made the course corrections necessary. I've done everything that I needed to do. And this is what we got this year. And I'm okay with that. That's the difference between the two. And that is, I think, a major part of gardening. It's a major part of life, but it's certainly a major part of gardening, because you are not going to be successful if you're just okay with just okay. If you're just okay with status quo, if you're just okay with just enough. And it's the same thing in life. If you want more out of life, but you're just doing just enough, that's all you're going to reap. If you're only sowing just enough, you're only going to reap just enough. We talk about people at work who are the overachievers, or that's what I call them, overachievers. And I admit every now and then I fall into that category, maybe more than every now and then I fall into that category, but I do, because I want the best. And my mother taught me, if you're going to do something, do it right. And if you're going to do it, do your best. I had a teacher, her name was Miss Brown. And I think she was a third grade teacher, second or third grade. And I remember, she used to have this saying, and she said it to us all year. Drove us crazy, but she said it to us all year. And it still sticks with me today. She used to say, good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is your better and your better is your best. And you can be good, you can be complacent and good, but you're not going to be better and complacent. And you're certainly not going to be best being complacent. It's not going to happen. I don't care how you try to rationalize it, but it's not going to happen. You can be good and complacent, but you're not going to be better and complacent, and you're not going to be best being complacent. You can be content with doing good. You can be content with doing better, and you can certainly be content with your best. Why? Because you know you've done all you can do. You have controlled all that you can control. I heard you. I heard you, big brother. Uh, now I can't think of your name. Eco neighbor. Love you, man. You can control what you can control, and at the end of the day, if this is what you get, you can be content with that because you know you've done your best. You know you've done everything that you can do to make it better, to bring much more fruit. It's okay to bear fruit, but we are called to bear not just more, we're called to bear much. And you're not going to bear much doing the same exact thing you did the season before. You're going to bear much because you did what you started. You have your foundation, and then you built on the foundation, and you made the adjustments as you went along to make sure that this plant gets what it needs, that this plant gets everything that it needs. And even if it means you taking your hand off it for a minute to give it that time to do what it's going to do, you did that as well. So that's what gardening does for me. Helps relax me, helps me think things through, and it certainly helps me not be complacent. You guys have a great day. Love you. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye.